This animal has a 95% hunting success rate. That means when a dragonfly decides to hunt something, 95 times out of 100 that something dies. Lions succeed on roughly 1 in 4 attempts. Great white sharks, about half. Cheetahs, the fastest land animal on Earth, fail more often than they succeed. The dragonfly leaves all of them far behind. And almost nobody knows this, because nobody really looks at dragonflies. We see them pass over the water, blue, green, iridescent, and we think they're pretty. We take a photo if we have our phone out, and then we keep walking. We've been walking past one of the most extraordinary animals on this planet for our entire lives. An animal that has been perfecting its design since before the first dinosaur drew breath. An animal that crosses oceans, controls disease, and has already solved engineering problems that our best researchers are still trying to crack. It doesn't live in the deep ocean. It doesn't hide in a rainforest canopy. It lives at the edge of every pond, every river, every puddle large enough to hold still water. It has been there your entire life. You've seen it hundreds of times. You just never stop to look. Today, we're going to change the way we see one. Get closer. A dragonfly hovering over a pond looks still, calm, almost decorative. It isn't. Freeze that moment and look closely, and you'd find something the naked eye simply can't catch. 4 wings, each moving completely independently, each one adjusting its angle with every single beat, with a level of precision that has no equivalent anywhere in the insect world. Air is no longer an obstacle. It becomes something to work with. That lets a dragonfly do something very few insects can: fly forward, backward, sideways, and hold position in mid-air. Not for an instant, but for as long as it wants. A helicopter pilot needs a joystick and 3 pedals to come anywhere close to what a dragonfly does with 4 wings and a brain the size of a sesame seed. When the first high-speed cameras finally managed to track a dragonfly frame by frame, researchers found something no human eye had ever seen. The wings weren't just beating. They were generating tiny vortices of air on purpose and collapsing them just as deliberately to shift direction, not reacting to air, sculpting it. All of that while changing direction in under a millisecond. By the time your eye registers the movement, the dragonfly has already arrived. There's something else those high-speed cameras revealed. A dragonfly doesn't just move its wings up and down. Each wing traces a figure-8 pattern through the air, a shape that maximizes lift on both the upstroke and the downstroke. It generates thrust in both directions. Most flying animals, birds, bats, other insects, only generate meaningful thrust on the downstroke. The dragonfly generates it on every single beat, in both directions, with all 4 wings independently. Engineers have a word for this kind of efficiency. They call it elegant. What they mean is, we don't fully understand how to replicate it yet. The figure-8 wing stroke alone has been the subject of hundreds of research papers. Every time a new generation of sensors gets small enough and fast enough to measure it more precisely, scientists find another layer of complexity they hadn't seen before. The dragonfly isn't just flying. It's running a continuous optimization, adjusting hundreds of variables simultaneously to stay perfectly efficient in air that's constantly shifting around it. Now the eyes. A dragonfly's head is almost entirely eye. 2 enormous compound eyes cover nearly the entire surface of its head. A field of vision approaching 360 degrees. Inside each eye, thousands of individual lenses, each pointing in a slightly different direction, each processing its own image at the same time. 80% of its brain does nothing but handle what those eyes take in. When a driver at high speed feels overwhelmed by everything happening around them, their visual system is maxed out. A dragonfly runs at that ceiling permanently, effortlessly, for millions of years. They also see ultraviolet light, wavelengths the human eye can't detect. The world a dragonfly sees contains colors we have no words for. Colors we've never seen. Colors we may not even be capable of imagining. When a dragonfly looks at a flower or at the surface of a pond, it sees an entirely different reality from the one we see standing next to it. This design has been on Earth for 300 million years. When the first dragonfly took flight, dinosaurs didn't exist yet. Prehistoric species reached wingspans of nearly 70 centimeters, the size of a crow, fueled by a richer atmosphere. When oxygen levels dropped, the body shrank. The blueprint didn't. Some solutions are so good that life just keeps them. Picture a mosquito flying over water. It changes direction at the last instant. For almost any predator, the hunt is over. For the dragonfly, it's just started. Most predators hunt by chasing. They spot the prey and launch toward where it is right now. That's why most of them fail. The prey turns. The prey escapes. It's a race. And in races, fastest doesn't always win. Dragonflies don't run that race. They don't chase. They intercept. Instead of flying toward where the prey is, they calculate where it's going to be. They factor in speed, trajectory, acceleration, and fly directly to the point where the prey will arrive. Not where it is. Where it's going to be. The prey never sees it coming. Because the dragonfly isn't where the prey is looking. The whole hunt takes less than half a second. And that geometry, that real-time calculation, is carried out by a nervous system that evolved before we invented calculus. When scientists first studied this, they assumed there was an error in the data. No animal that small should be able to run those numbers that fast, with that much precision. They repeated the experiment with high-speed cameras, analyzed every frame. Same result. The dragonfly wasn't missing. Almost never. To understand just how extraordinary that is, consider what the calculation actually requires. The dragonfly has to measure the prey's current position in three-dimensional space. It has to estimate its speed and direction. It has to predict how that direction will change, accounting for the prey's own evasive behavior. And it has to compute a flight path that places itself at exactly the right point in space at exactly the right moment. All of this happens in the time it takes you to blink. We gave this problem to computers in the 1970s. It took years of work by teams of mathematicians to write the equations. The solution became the foundation of modern missile guidance systems, some of the most sophisticated tracking technology ever built. The Dragonfly runs the same calculation in real time, continuously, using neurons instead of silicon. And it does it better. And there's one more thing. Inside a swarm of insects, a dragonfly can lock onto a single specific target among hundreds and track it while filtering out everything else around it. See only what it needs. Ignore the rest. Neuroscientists call this selective attention. For a long time, it was considered exclusive to animals with large brains and complex neural architecture. The dragonfly does it with something the size of a pea. The last piece of this that researchers took longest to understand. The dragonfly doesn't wait to spot its prey before starting to calculate. Its neural processing is predictive, tracking the motion before the outcome is certain, computing the intercept point in real time. And on the rare occasion it's wrong, it corrects in mid-air with an adjustment so small and so fast that nothing else in the air would even notice. 95 out of every 100 hunts end in a kill. The dragonfly is not the animal you see dancing over the pond. It's the most efficient aerial predator that has ever existed on this planet. While you've been reading this, a single dragonfly could have taken out several mosquitoes before any of them got close to you. Not a metaphor. That's what's happening. Constantly. In every ecosystem where dragonflies are still around. But the story doesn't start in the air. It starts underwater. Before becoming the animal we see flying, a dragonfly spends most of its life as an aquatic nymph, living at the bottom of lakes, rivers, and ponds. Eating, growing, shedding its skin up to 12 times, and during all of that, which can last up to 5 years, feeding on mosquito larvae, tadpoles, small crustaceans, a predator underwater before it ever becomes one in the air. It kills the mosquito before the mosquito exists. And when it finally leaves the water, it does so in a way that looks impossible. The nymph climbs a stem, grips it, and the skin along its back splits open. From that gap, slowly, the adult emerges. wings wet and folded. It stretches them, waits for them to dry, and within hours, one of the most efficient predators on the planet is ready to hunt. That transition, from underwater predator to aerial predator, happens once in a dragonfly's life. There's no practice run. The animal that crawled out of the water has never flown before. And yet within hours of emerging, it's executing the most precise aerial hunting technique in the animal kingdom. The ability was always there, encoded and waiting. It didn't need to be learned. It just needed a pair of wings and a few hours of sunlight. The mosquito is the deadliest animal in human history. Malaria, dengue, Zika, yellow fever. More deaths than any war, any disaster, any other predator. The dragonfly is one of the main things keeping it in check, both underwater and in the air above it. In regions where dragonfly populations have collapsed, mosquito numbers have not just increased. They have exploded, not doubled or tripled. In some documented cases, by thousands of %. That's not an abstraction. That's malaria rates rising. That's dengue spreading into areas where it previously couldn't gain a foothold. The collapse of a single predator population creates a cascade that reaches all the way to human health. There are researchers now who are studying dragonfly population density as a proxy for disease risk in tropical regions, not the mosquitoes themselves, the dragonflies. Because where the dragonfly thrives, the mosquito is kept in check. Where the dragonfly disappears, you can start counting the days. Picture a wetland gone quiet, no dragonflies over the water. To a biologist, that silence isn't calm. It's a warning. Dragonflies are so sensitive to water quality that their disappearance means something has already gone wrong. Scientists use them as indicators. Dragonflies present, ecosystem functioning. Dragonflies gone, the damage is done. Since 1970, we've lost more than a third of the world's wetlands, drained for development, contaminated by agriculture, altered by climate change. In the areas hardest hit, dragonflies have nearly vanished. And when they go, an ecosystem doesn't just lose a predator. It loses the thread holding an entire network together. The birds that ate them, the fish that ate their larvae, the frogs competing with them for the same insects. Everything downstream, direct or indirect, starts to come apart. An animal almost nobody looks at turns out to be quietly keeping an entire ecosystem together. There's something about dragonflies that almost nobody knows, including most biologists who don't specialize in the subject. They migrate, and not just a few kilometers. One species, the wandering glider, makes a round trip of more than 14,000 kilometers between India and East Africa, twice a year, across the Indian Ocean. A 3-centimeter insect crosses an ocean. For decades, nobody knew. Scientists had noticed this species appearing and disappearing from certain regions at certain times of year, but couldn't explain it. It was an entomologist who started marking dragonflies with tiny paint dots and tracking their movement who pieced it together, slowly, over years. The wandering glider needs fresh water to reproduce. Monsoon rains create perfect temporary pools across different parts of Africa and the Indian subcontinent at different times of year. The dragonfly follows the rain, across 14,000 kilometers, synchronizing its entire life cycle with the water cycle of 2 continents at once. Think about what that means. No maps, no instruments, no memory of having made the trip before, because most individuals die before the cycle completes. It's their offspring that return. Each generation inherits a route it has never traveled. That information, where to go, when to leave, which currents to ride, is encoded not in memory but in biology itself, written into the nervous system before the animal hatches. A route compressed into genetics, passed from one generation to the next across thousands of kilometers and millions of years. The journey is not something dragonflies learn. It's something they are. The navigation mechanism is still not fully understood. What researchers do know is that dragonflies can detect the Earth's magnetic field, the same mechanism used by migratory birds, but in an animal with a fraction of the brain. They also appear to use solar position as a compass, correcting for the sun's movement across the sky throughout the day. Two independent navigation systems, running simultaneously, in something you could hide under a postage stamp. When you add it all together, the magnetic compass, the solar tracking, the atmospheric pressure reading, the inherited route, you're looking at a navigation suite that rivals what we put into long-range aircraft. Except it weighs less than a paperclip and runs on the energy equivalent of a few drops of nectar. And they don't fight the wind. They position themselves inside the weather systems that circle the equator and let the planet carry them, reading atmospheric pressure through their wings, finding the right current, letting the wind do the flying. A dragonfly doesn't just see, doesn't just hunt. It navigates global weather systems with a brain the size of a sesame seed. At what point do we stop calling this a simple insect? The honest answer is that we don't have a good category for what a dragonfly is. It doesn't fit the mental model most of us carry. We think of insects as simple, mechanical, interchangeable. The dragonfly is none of those things. It is ancient, precise, and irreplaceable. And the fact that it's small enough to land on your finger doesn't make it any less extraordinary. It just makes it easier to ignore. MIT engineers have spent decades trying to replicate the dragonfly's flight mechanics for drone technology. Millions of dollars, thousands of research hours. The best they've managed, 70% of the efficiency of the real thing. The most advanced flying machine we've ever built is still 30% worse than an insect that's been airborne since before the Triassic. The most sophisticated artificial vision systems in the world still can't replicate how a dragonfly processes movement in real time. The algorithms behind high-precision tracking technology are built on the same mathematical principles a dragonfly uses to intercept prey, except the dragonfly has been refining them for 300 million years longer. Every time engineering tries to copy nature, it finds that nature already solved the problem, long before we knew it was one. There's a pattern here that goes beyond the dragonfly. The compound eye inspired the design of wide-angle camera lenses. The structure of dragonfly wings has informed the design of wind turbine blades. The predictive tracking system has influenced how we build autonomous vehicles. A single insect, one we barely glance at, has quietly shaped multiple fields of human technology without anyone stopping to acknowledge it. This is what happens when you stop walking past things, when you actually look. Every time a researcher has decided to study a dragonfly seriously, not as a curiosity, but as a subject worthy of sustained attention, they have found something that changed how we understand flight, or vision, or neuroscience, or navigation. The animal keeps giving. We just keep forgetting to ask. 300 million years of uninterrupted refinement, and we've spent most of human history not even noticing it was there. Most of us will walk past a dragonfly this summer without stopping for a second. It will keep doing exactly what it's been doing since before the dinosaurs existed. Hunting, navigating, quietly keeping an ecosystem together without anyone noticing. It doesn't need an audience. It never did. The next time you see a dragonfly hovering over a pond, you're not looking at a bug. You're looking at a predator that crosses oceans, controls disease, and outperforms our best engineering. A navigator without instruments, a hunter without equal. A design so perfect that 300 million years of evolution looked at it and decided there was nothing left to improve. You're just looking at it from too far away. The closer you look, the stranger the world becomes.